So in this next video, we're starting off right where we left off from the last one. And what we want to do is start drawing some shapes to our window so it's not just a boring background. Now before I do that, it would be helpful if we had some colors pre-programmed, let's say, predefined for us. So the first color that we could predefine, and I'm going to use all capital letters because I think of these as constants. These are values that are never going to change. So we can say red is 255, 0, and 0. That's our nice bright red. And we know that black is 0, 0, 0 because there's no color in it at all. We know white is 255, 255, 255. Or actually, I'm not sure about that. Let's check it out. So let's draw our window. And instead of putting these numbers in, now we can say window.fill is white. So let's run it. And you can see the window is filled white. So we were right. Next, what we need to do is maybe pick a blue. So blue is RGB. So 0, 0, 255. And let's go with one more. And let's go find it. So just as a reminder, we go to this color picker. Let's pick a real nice kind of purpley color. I kind of like this one right here, maybe a little darker. So our RGB is 121, 34, and 214. So I can just copy that, and we can say purple is that. And so now I can say my background can be purple. Well, that's pretty handy. Another thing I can do for setting this up is I can say a variable is size. And the size that I want my screen to be is 800 by 600. Now it's always width and then height. And so right here now I can put size, because every time it sees the word size, it says, oh, size is 800 by 600. So let's draw our first shape. And the first shape we're going to draw is a line. And the way a line is set, and I'm just going to paste in here how you draw lines. A line looks like this. So we go pygame.draw.line, and where do we want to draw our line? Well, we want to draw our line in the window that we drew. And because we said window is pygame.display.setMode, our window is called window. So we want to draw it to the window, and then we need a color. What color do we want our line? Well, right now our background is purple, so I don't know, let's draw it black, comma. So we've got our surface that we're drawing on, which is the window, and then we've got our color that we want to draw it, which is black. And again, you could put bracket 0, 0, 0 bracket, and that's just as good. Okay, and then a comma gets us to our next thing. We need a starting position. Now, in order to get that, I just need to talk about the window for a second. So let's open up our window. Here's our window. And where are these positions here? Well, this top left corner is 0, 0. And as we go across, our x value increases. So this is 0, 0, maybe 100, 0, 200, 0. And then since our window is 800 by 600, all the way over here would be 800, 0. Now as we go down, the y value increases. So that's different than when you graph in math. So this would be 0, 0, and then 0, 100, and 0, 200, and 0, 300. And all the way at the bottom would be, this corner right here would be 0, 600. Which means all the way down in the bottom right-hand corner must be 800, 600. So where do we want our line to start? Let's have our line start somewhere over in this area. So let's say maybe 100, 100 is where we want our line to start. So we want our line to start at 100, 100. That's our starting position. And where do we want our line to end? Well, let's say we wanted a straight across horizontal line. Then we would have, let's say maybe 400, 100. So it's at the same height, but it's 300 over. So this line would be 300 long and a perfectly horizontal line. And then lastly, we could put comma, and the width that we want our line, let's say a width of 1 for now, just to see what it looks like. So I know that my window is still open, so I'm going to close that. And then now I can run it. And you can see we have a line right here that goes right to the center of the screen, because remember the screen is 800 wide, right up to 400. So this is 300 long and has a width of 1. And if I run it again while changing my width to 5, let's say, you can see the difference. Now this line has a width of 5. And notice that the ends aren't rounded off at all. And so that's how you draw a line. Next thing that we can draw is we can draw a rectangle. And the way that works is pygame.draw.rect for a rectangle. And the way we do this is the first thing, just like before, we have to say what surface we're going to draw this rectangle onto, and we're going to draw it onto our window. And then next we need a color. Let's make it blue. And then next, instead of 0.1 and 0.2, what we're going to put is separated by a comma. What we're going to do is we're going to put 0.1. So let's start it, let's say at 50, 50. And then what is the width? So let's say we want it to be 100 wide by 300 tall. Okay, so this is our starting position at 50, 50 over, 50 down, and then we wanted 100 wide and 300 down. And then we put a comma, and then lastly we put our width. Now the width is the width of the border, so I'm going to just start this out at a 3 so we can see what this looks like. And if we run it, you can see this starts at 50, 50. Remember this was 100, 100, 50, 50, and it's 100 wide and it's 300 down. Now the way that you can fill in that box is if your width is 0. So if your width is 0, the whole thing is filled in. Next thing is pygame.draw. And let's draw a circle. So where do we want to draw it? Well, we want to draw it on the window just like before. What color do we want it? Well, let's draw a white one because we have a purple background. And then how does this work? Well, you can see that this little tooltip thing here has come up. And so we drew it to the window, we want it white. Where do we want the center of our circle? And then lastly, what is the radius? So I would like my circle to be at, let's say 400, 400. And how wide do I want the circle to be? Or what's the radius that I want? Well, let's have a radius of 60. And lastly, how thick do I want the outside edge to be? So let's just put 2 for now. And if we run it, you can see right here, we've got our circle. Now, one way that people often make mistakes in here is they draw all their things to the screen and then they draw their background. So if I run this, what's going to happen is I'm going to get what looks like a blank screen, but it's really not. It actually drew all of those shapes, and then it filled in the background right over top. So the order is very important. The first thing that you draw will go down first, and the last thing that you draw will go down on top of it. So you always need to draw the background before you start drawing things in on top of the background.